My name is Kari and I'm your host of Know Better, Live Best. Alex Arguello is a chiropractor at Great River Family Chiropractic, and Jarek Bakken is a CrossFit trainer as well as a videographer. They are the hosts of the podcast Restoring Human. They understand the importance of treating the whole person, including whole foods and exercise. Listen in as they talk about why they started Restoring Human, why transparency with food they eat is important, and their story that led them to living the life they do now. Know Better, Live Best is dedicated to supporting food and health literacy in people of all ages. Our mission is to cut through the misinformation surrounding food, health, and nutrition because we believe that when people know better, they can make the right choices and live their best lives. We are presented by Biteable Foods. They use blockchain and Internet of Things technology to build traceable, transparent food systems because it shouldn't take an investigative journalist to find out where food comes from. Hi, I am here with Alex Arguello and Jarek Bakken, and they were kind enough to come on our podcast of Know Better, Live Best, and they actually have their own podcast, and it's called Restoring Human.
Restoring Human.
Yeah, I've actually listened to a few episodes, and I think I did press subscribe, so I'm actually going to get the rest of them. So I have like a half an hour drive to work every day, and back's like an hour,
perfect.
So I always have something to listen to.
That's great.
So I'm going to ask you both. I mean, Jarek, you can go first. So what do you guys do?
Well, I am not a full-time podcaster, although that would be quite fun.
That'd be nice.
I've got about 5 different hats I wear. Primarily, I work with cameras and computers. I'm a videographer, marketer, that type of thing. But I'm also a CrossFit trainer, there's many different things that fall under both of those, but those are my kind of primary things.
Keeps life interesting.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex?
I am a chiropractor, so we are right now in my office, Great River Family Chiropractic. That is my sole thing that I do. I don't have all these other odd jobs. But I also, so basically my office is not traditional chiropractic office that most people know about. I am more into wellness and teaching people what a healthy lifestyle is. So I'm going to talk about nutrition. I'm going to talk about exercise. I'm going to talk about sleep with every one of my patients. So I can educate the people here if they are here or if they come to workshops that I have. But I also wanted to try to reach more people than we're just going to be coming into my office. So then that's kind of how we got together and said, hey, let's start this podcast so we can start educating more people than coming to Great River Family Chiropractic. Right. And I knew I had the education, I had the knowledge to be able to give to people, but I had no idea how to get that on the internet.
Right.
And that was where this guy is an expert
That's
at.
Where I come in.
That's how we got together.
I love it. So how did you two meet? I got to ask this. How do you guys know each other?
We met through a mutual friend who is actually the pastor of the church that we both go to.
Okay.
And I think probably the first time that we met, we were both working out in said third party's garage. And he kind of like paired us up and we started working out together, and that was kind of the dawn.
Yeah. So through working out is where we kind of developed our relationship, but we met through our church, Sacred City Church.
Yeah.
I love that. It was like meant to be. And then here's like your own podcast, getting knowledge out to everyone. I love that you do that though, because I mean, any of our listeners know I've dealt with back problems and for a while. Like I would probably say the last 7 years I had a herniated disc, like I'm sure 90% of America can like relate to. And I was able to push through it like with exercise and kind of watching what I was eating. I wouldn't say it was the best. And it took me about a year, but I came to the point where I felt normal, whatever normal was before that. So I'm like, okay, all was good. I had 2 kids later, fine, wanted one more, and then boom. I mean, that severe pain, but only it was 10 times worse this time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, I can push through this because I'm actually more of an all-natural type person. So surgery was like never on the table with the first one to me. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I can do this. But I thought it was the same disc. MRI later, I'm like, no, that one did heal itself. Here's a new, even bigger one. I'm like, oh, yay, of course it is. And I think that plays like mind games. with people too when you see it, because I'm sure people have herniated discs and bulging discs. They don't even know it because they don't feel the pain. But anyway, find out I'm actually pregnant. And then I was good until the end. And then I was stuck in bed all last summer. Yeah. And I mean, stuck in, had the baby, end up having surgery. But then it put me on this path to, okay, I can't live like this. I'm 36 years old. I have 3 little kids. Yeah. I have a busy job. I can't do this. And I think most of America can relate to that. And so hopefully they find your podcast as well as ours, because what do you do? Yeah. It's like medication.
Right. And that, I think your story is like, that is the story that we are passionate about changing, because unfortunately that story is not uncommon.
No.
And what we're kind of set out to do is say, hey, this doesn't have to be the way things go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kind of unfortunately, when something like that happens, in your case, it made you find something, a kind of a new way of living.
Yes.
So now you are, hopefully, from here moving forward, going to be doing the right stuff. So that's the fortunate part about it. But unfortunately, it had to get to a spot like that. And that's where, whether it is a big injury like that or some sort of digestive issue, or people, get overweight or obese or have some sort of heart issue, more and more people it's happening to. And they have to get to that really bad spot before they start to make a change. And that's kind of been trained into us a little bit just by how people, what they know about health. They think that they're healthy unless they, if they're not feeling anything, if they don't have pain or they don't have a diagnosis, then they're healthy. And that's just not the case. I mean, you mentioned people could have a herniated disc and not feel it. Well, people could be, cancers throughout their body and not feel anything. And they could have an artery 95% blocked and not feel anything. And if they are not actually doing what they're supposed to do as far as lifestyle, then something like that is going to happen to everybody, eventually. And that's what we're trying to prevent and promote, starting now, living a lifestyle, not waiting until you're sick, not waiting until you have these symptoms, but actually living the way you're supposed to live, and it'll never happen.
Right. And I wish most people would know. I wish I would have known this, oh my gosh, back in childhood. But what you were thinking about when you were a kid. Right. I mean, honestly. But now, yes, I'm grateful for my injury at this point, because now it's set me on a much healthier path, because, I worry about cancer and I worry about all those things, especially with 3 little children at home. I want to be there as long as I can, and at least prevent things that I think are preventative from here on out. So I have that. But what about the people that think they're healthy?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's hard. It has to start somewhere. You have to understand that there is a problem. Something has to become tangible. I think there's a lot of different ways that can happen for people. So, an easy one is like weight loss. I think almost everybody thinks that they're overweight.
Right.
And so if it starts with something simple like that and then turns into you're going to be healing your body in so many other ways besides just your body composition, that's kind of like low-hanging fruit for a lot of people. But there has to be something that is a motivating factor to begin with. And you're right, most people, unless there's a clear sign, there's not a care in the world.
All right, I look good, feel good. Yeah. Why change anything?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I think it's probably going to be like that for a while, where people are still going to test it out, just not living the lifestyle they're supposed to, and wait until they get into a really bad spot and change. But one of the things that we're trying to do, so both of us, we are Christians, and so we're trying to motivate people from kind of the other end. We basically say, okay, if God created us a certain way, then we want to try to live that way that's more in alignment with the way that he created us, as far as we're supposed to move, we're supposed to eat a certain way, we're supposed to sleep, we're supposed to enjoy people, we're supposed to have community, we're supposed to have all these things. And we do that because he created us, so we're supposed to honor him with our body, we're supposed to honor him with our life. And we think if we can get people to start thinking that way, then that'll be at least the motivation that motivates us to be able to do the stuff that we're trying to do. It's not necessarily because we don't want to be sick. Of course, that's the case.
Right. But
we want to do stuff well before we're actually going to get sick. And it's because, we don't believe we're our own. We're actually owned by somebody else who's given us a body, and we want to honor him with that body. So that's kind of one of the main things that we try to promote.
Yeah, and not just in obedience, but we think there's a fairly clear way where life is had most abundantly, and the human body is meant to be most optimized. And we're that's clearly not the normal. That's like, people are clearly not there. We're in a mode of survival and managing disease and doing whatever we can just to kind of hang on. And we don't think that is the best life that Earth has for us.
Right.
Yeah.
We think there's something much, much more and much more flourishing and vibrant, and that's what we want to be working towards.
Yeah, and I can say that was definitely a lot of my reflection last summer. I'm like, I don't think our bodies are meant to be in this much pain. Like, what are we doing? Like, they're made to, like, thrive, I think. And so that's what took me more than to the nutrition part. But with the back injuries, obviously I had plenty of time to read up on it. I was stuck in my bed. And what's, in your opinion, Alex, what's your opinion on why, like, the biggest... Like, I feel like we're having a huge outbreak of just back issues, but I don't think it's always been that, right? It could have been something else. I don't know, but why do you think it's like the back? Is it this, right? I was about to say, I'm like, as I'm sitting right here, if you can see, Jarek actually stood up and picked up his chair. Yeah. Totally.
Well, I think it has to go back to lifestyle. And that's a complicated answer.
Right.
That's a simple answer to it could go a bunch of different directions there. But so chiropractic actually never had anything to do with back pain in the beginning. Chiropractic was all about, the guy who started chiropractic realized that your nervous system was what controlled everything else in your body. So everybody knows the brain controls everything. So there's these connection between your brain and the rest of your body is the spinal cord and nerves. So he's like, well, if people are having these problems in the body, then maybe it's not the actual organ or muscle or tissue, wherever it's at. Maybe it's what controls that. And as he studied, he's like, well, yeah, it actually is the nervous system. If there's a problem with the nervous system, then that's going to equal a problem somewhere in the body. So then chiropractic started to address issues in the body by correcting the stress that was on the nervous system with the spine. So people never went to see a chiropractor for back pain. They went to see a chiropractor because they were just sick. So they would actually get well because their body could heal itself if the nervous system was actually functioning at a high level. If it wasn't, then they were going to have all kind of health issues. But as more and more issues started to happen as far as people living a worse and worse lifestyle, now all this back pain and stuff started to happen, and chiropractic was actually very good at correcting back pain without having to use drugs or surgery. So then that's really what everybody started to learn about chiropractic, is you go to a chiropractor when you actually have some sort of a pain, neck, back pain, or headache.
Right.
And again, thankfully it does help with all of those things, but it's kind of watered down a little bit of what chiropractic is truly about. And from me just noticing clinically, I've been a chiropractor now for 8 years, it's the people, yes, they come to me because they've had some sort of an injury, and that's most likely what kind of either started or made their back problems a lot worse than they could be. But if they have a terrible lifestyle, those people rarely ever get better, or it takes them a lot longer to get better. Where if they had a good lifestyle and they got injured, they probably wouldn't necessarily need to come see me to get out of their pain. They could probably get out of their pain.
Right.
Now they should see me for other reasons, but the actual injury causing pain and that leading to worse problems, where they potentially need surgery, if their lifestyle was on point, then more than likely they wouldn't get into that position. So it is, they sit too much, or you have these construction workers that are always putting their bodies into weird positions and lifting. They've never been taught how to lift, or factory workers that are in the same position and kind of doing stuff repetitively. There's all these things that really the human body was never meant to do for long periods of time, or in the positions that they're in. Plus you got the people that, they work 12-hour days and then their sleep schedule's off and they're not eating healthy.
Right.
They're overweight, their body's inflamed, and now they're going to be more prone for injury. So there's a ton of stuff that goes into why people have back problems now. I mean,
mine's obvious. I mean, I think I have the best job for having a good back. I'm walking around constantly. I actually don't sit that much. So actually I know mine's not like my job. Mine was my lifestyle when it came to nutrition. I mean, hands down, I know that, and taking care of it in that way. And that's where I'm going from here. But when you have patients come in, is it hard to then address like the lifestyle outside of like maybe just like their spine or alignment or different things
so
like that?
That is, again, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because I have somebody that comes to me and they think that their back problem is because they just bend over to pick up a chair and that's what happened. You know, I can't say, no, this is because of your 20 years of living this way. So I have to say, okay, yeah, this is something we'll address. But then my hope is as they're involved kind of in the culture that I'm trying to build here in the office, they'll start to learn more and more about their lifestyle. And eventually I can address it with them more directly. But the hope is that as they come in here and they read the research that we have on the tables, or they see something on the TV that we always play educational videos on our TV.
Nice.
So they're going to start thinking about stuff when they're in here and hopefully ask me questions. And then later on down the road, whether it's a reevaluation, I can get more direct with, hey, let's start looking at some of your lifestyle things. But if people knew that coming in to my office, kind of what I was about and what I taught, then there wouldn't have to be that taking somebody from just back injury to here's a lifestyle change. They could already know, well, I should be changing my lifestyle even before I go see Dr. Alex.
Now, have either of you had, an instance in your life where pain or whatnot, and you've really had to reevaluate your lifestyle? Or has it always been a little more naturally easy for the both of you?
No, not easy at all. So with chiropractic specifically, Alex and I were working out together for, I think, a couple of years before I ever stepped foot in this office. And I stepped foot in here because I hurt myself and needed to come see him. And then since then, now I come every other week or however often it is, and I come here, so I'm never at that place ever again. But yeah, with back pain, I definitely started with, okay, I hurt myself, I need to figure this out. But then with overall health, like for the first 21 years of my life, I was pretty much overweight all the time. And basically got to the point where, I realized I needed to be proactive with changing something, or else this life and this pain and everything associated with that was just going to continue.
I didn't start thinking about health till I was 23 years old. I was an athlete my whole life, so I thought I was healthy. I pretty much looked the same way that I do now, maybe a little bit skinnier. But I ate terrible stuff. I didn't care about exercise. I probably slept terrible. None of the lifestyle stuff that I teach people now I cared about. But 23 years old, I got really sick and ended up being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis. And from that, I went about a year of just going the traditional medical route and was on a ton of different medication, and basically medication after medication wasn't working. So I was on the way to getting my entire colon taken out. And I was about a year into chiropractic school, which is kind of interesting. Back to kind of chiropractic not being about pain. I was a year into chiropractic school. I was around all these chiropractors. Most of them knew that I had this disease. None of them ever said anything to me about being able to get better without medications or surgery. Thankfully, I did talk to one of them that talked about that, and he kind of walked me through how the spine and nervous system related to it. He walked me through how nutrition related to it, walked me through how toxicity might be related to it. So I took the approach over the course, probably the next 18 months, of what now would be considered functional medicine, and totally reversed the autoimmune disease, and I haven't had a symptom for about 8 years and been off all my medication, still have my colon. So
it's intact, thankfully.
So that was kind of what changed things for me as far as now being about the lifestyle that I'm about now. I had to go through it myself, similar to what you said with the herniated disc. But then when it happened, I was like, man, I don't know many people that know what I know now.
No.
Most people are educated like I was educated prior to this, so I have to teach people. So that's kind of why I went down the direction as far as practicing chiropractic, how I do now. And then, why we do the podcast now is we're trying to get more and more people that type of information so that more people don't have to end up where I ended up before they make a change. But even the people that have already been there, they're still going down the same route of, when's this medication finally going to work for me, or
Right.
thinking they have to be on medication for the rest of their life. And not that some people don't have to be on medication, and medications save people's lives all the time. Surgery save people's lives. Surgery relieves suffering like it did for you.
Right.
But it's happening way too often.
It is.
And it's because people aren't educated enough on that there is another option, and it could be prevented if we lived a certain lifestyle. So.
Oh, I fully agree. Like I said, this past year has just been eye-opening for me. And this podcast has been great for me to reach out to people, and I'm learning more constantly, because like I said, I'm just that average person out there that's just searching the internet, trying to find things to help me. And I have, numerous friends with autoimmune diseases. So that's interesting to me too. And just getting them hopefully listening to podcasts and researching more, that I think nutrition, as the rest of life, so plays a huge role in it. So nutrition wise, Jarek, I can start with you, because I know you've been really just trying different things with your body. What's really helped you, or what have you found out through your trials?
Kind of exactly what you were just saying about how you've got people in your life who are experiencing these types of things, and the answer is largely found in this thing we do, most of us, about 3 times a day. The things that we're actually putting into our body. Different from Alex, I have no formal training in anything whatsoever. So for me to be able to be kind of just like a regular guy, figure out how my body is actually supposed to work. Yes, I had to do a little legwork myself. I'm listening to podcasts, watching videos on the internet, like doing my fair amount of research, absolutely. But it's all there. It's all available. There's so much out there for absolutely free. So without any formal training, I've been able to create a lot of change in my own life. And early in life, I did play a decent amount of sports, spent some time in the weight room. I figured out, okay, I can be a little strong, I like this, but I was still just overweight. And then after high school, didn't do any of that stuff, gained a lot more weight, and kind of realized, okay, this isn't enough, and figured out, okay, food is a huge factor, and now I know huge is the much, much bigger factor in not only managing weight, but in so many other aspects of life. I mean, probably the biggest factor in health of the human body when it comes to just about anything. And so, like you said, it was a lot of experimenting, a lot of just kind of starting small. I think basically the first thing I started doing was simply eating real food. I got introduced to like the Paleo diet, and what that meant for me was, okay, I'm not going to eat any type of grains. I'm not going to eat any dairy, meat, fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and just kind of blindly, no regard for any type of like portions or whatever. And I probably did that for a year and saw amazing results, because I was just eating things that my body recognized. And that was a massive start. And what I see now is I had no idea what I was doing, but just that alone created so much change. Just simply eat real food.
Oh, and how your body feels.
Absolutely.
I would say the full feeling is even different. I was thinking back the other day, and I'm like, I don't remember the last time I felt truly that uncomfortable full. I'm like, my fruits and vegetables don't really do that to me.
That's something that I used to be so familiar with. It was just like, okay, you eat and you feel this certain way, this nasty, bloated feeling. This is just how food makes you feel. I don't think I've literally ever felt that since probably that first year of eating real food, because normal food doesn't do that to your body. Yeah,
that's it's eye-opening. I'm like, what have I been doing to my body for the last 30 plus years? I mean, really, I know. what I've been doing, and it makes me sad. But now I'm happy that I'm on the other end, and I have my slip ups. Like over this long weekend, I had some, because I really try to stay away from sugar and dairy for me. It's like you talked about inflammation earlier. Oh my gosh, that's inside my body, and that's helped a lot. Because I also have osteoarthritis and when I started eating this way for my back, I hadn't felt pain in my knees, and I just didn't realize it because my back pain had overtaken my knee pain. And it was just kind of amazing. So I'm not on that path of eventually I'm going to have a knee replacement. No, that's out of my mind. I'm like, no, that does not need to be my future. I can take control of it now. And so, like I said, the real food, and like for me, sugar and dairy definitely inflames my body. And I had a little bit of sugar. It wasn't even that much this weekend because I've been good about not doing it. My left knee hurts today. And I'm like, what did I do this weekend? I wasn't extraneous. I didn't do much. And nope, sure enough, I'm pretty sure it was that food. And it's just that extra little bit to be like, Kari, nope.
Yeah, and so part of the thing that is a little distinct about kind of how we view life as a whole is we don't think that anybody is going to eat perfectly 100% of the time. So we don't want that to be the standard. We want life to happen. We value community. We value doing things with other people and going out and having a good time and all of the good things that happen there. And a lot of times, yes, there's food involved there.
Yep.
And we want to live the 90% of our lives in a way that those small percentage, probably more than 90% and less than 10%, those things are just these tiny little moments where we're going to value a lot of this other stuff that's going on and have the liberty to be able to enjoy other delicious things that may have some consequences on the other side,
Well, it makes your new lifestyle easier. And I say new lifestyle, it's not like a diet to me. It's like, this is what I do now.
Sure,
This
absolutely.
is how I eat. This is how I value my body. But it makes it easier to not beat yourself up, like you said, when you go to that, Labor Day weekend party and, have a cookie or something that doesn't sit well with you.
Right. If you have a cookie on Monday night, Labor Day, and then Tuesday morning, you're starting with donuts and sugar in your coffee, that's the context for that is much different than, okay, you splurged a little bit socially the night before and you're back on track Monday morning. That's it. That's a completely different story.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. So you tried a water fast.
This I did.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's really interesting to me.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, I went 7 whole days with no food and only water. Kind of just another one of those self-experiments to see what would happen. Alex has talked to me a fair amount about just what extended fasting does for the human body. I've experimented with intermittent fasting, 16 to 20, 24 hours, on a much more regular basis, a lot over the past year and a half. But this is the first time I had kind of done something more extended. I could go on quite a bit about it, but that was kind of the what of what I did.
Right. So obviously you were talking with Alex before you did this. I'm guessing you were bouncing ideas off each other.
Yeah. I'd have been a little lost without any help.
Right. So Alex, what were your thoughts on what would help him, or what might he find by doing this? Or, did you encourage this? I guess I should ask that.
Yeah. So I've done 2 different water fasts of 3 days each. I never went 7. So I do I
just like opportunities where I can beat Alex at
Go
something.
big or go home, huh? Okay.
Well, yeah. So I do a lot of health coaching with people. Okay. So people come to me with whatever autoimmune disease, or they want to lose weight or whatever it may be. So I do a lot of I hate the word prescribe, but I'm prescribing certain diets for people in a therapeutic sense. So they might need to go on some sort of autoimmune diet for a while. They might need to go on the paleo diet. They might need to go ketogenic, whatever it may be. But so fasting can be very therapeutic for these people. So that was the main reason that I did it, because I wanted to experience it if I was going to recommend it for somebody. But just as I was researching it, and just guys that I learned from, them talking about the benefits of it, there's a lot. What he wanted to really, I think, try was to see if he extended his fast out longer than what he was used to doing, is if his body would start. So there's this term, autophagy. Basically, it's where the body goes around and starts to find tissue that's built up, abnormal cells that are not supposed to be there, of course. So the body will start to get rid of those if it doesn't have to worry about digestion and all the other things that happen when you're actually eating. So the reason being is because if you're not giving the body food, then it will find some sort of energy source. So whether that's the fat that you have on your body that it's using, or sometimes it'll use muscle tissue. But if it can find some sort of tissue that's grown in your body that's not supposed to be there, then it can actually use that for energy as well. It can break it down into the sources of energy, like a glucose molecule or fat molecule, something like that. So I think that's what he wanted to see, is if he extended out his fast long enough, would he actually get to that point where his body's clearing out some of the stuff that is not there. So that could be how you would know. A lot of it is going to happen that you're not going to know about. But if people have like skin tags on them, like that type of stuff could go away. If people have moles, that type of stuff could go away. If there's cysts in the body, that type of stuff could go away. But most of the stuff that you won't know about, this is going to most likely what the body's going to actually address first. So Alzheimer's disease, there's this certain protein that builds up in the brain, and when you extend out a fast, there's been research that shows that the body actually goes after those particular proteins and gets rid of them. So it could potentially be something that prevent Alzheimer's disease. There's also a lot of research that shows that if you were to do it one time a year, 7-year fast, then the body's going to go after abnormal cell growth, which we know as cancer, if that gets too, if you build up too many abnormal cells. So if you actually give kind of this one time a year, your body time to actually go around it and say, where's abnormal cells, and get rid of them, then you'd be doing a lot to prevent abnormal cell growth over the course of your lifetime.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of a general explanation of some deep stuff.
Well, right. I say a lot of things we're touching on are definitely very deep stuff that I'm sure if they listen to your podcast, they'll probably find more.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's plenty of things that I understand happened, but I can't see the inner workings of my cells. So I don't have anything that's like, oh my gosh, I regrew a fingernail that wasn't there. Like there's nothing crazy that I can necessarily point to like that. But at the same time, it's also just kind of a test in resilience. One of the things that we're really trying to work against is just the modern lifestyle and the negative things that it has brought about. We have so many things that we have compromised for convenience, and as humans and as people, we're extremely less resilient, than a human used to be. And so anything that we can do to kind of put ourselves in some sort of kind of managed stress like that, I think there's a lot of benefit that can happen there. So more than being hungry for 7 days or anything, it was like there was things going on in my head that I had to make the decision, no, I'm not eating today, You
need to be mentally strong. And I'm sure you had to prepare it even before you decided to actually start your 7 days mentally, I would think.
Sure.
I would have at least.
Well, yeah. I mean, so literally I looked at my week. I was like, I'm going to be really busy this week. My head's going to be distracted by lots of other things. This is a good week to try this.
Right.
That's exactly what my mindset was.
Well, and your 3 children, I think that's so funny.
Yeah. So the absolute most difficult part of the whole thing was just feeding them.
Yeah.
Having to prepare food and have food in your hands, and normally I'm making dinner and I can throw a bite in my mouth, lick my fingers even. And all of that stuff was just like the mental test. Like, nope, I'm done here. I'm going to go wash my hands and dry them off. Like, much more mental than any type of physical hunger.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's hard. I was laughing like this summer when I was home. I'm like, I think for the very first time in my life, I actually forgot to eat a couple times. I never thought that was possible until my third child came. I think it's a whole new ball game. I'm like, did I really not eat?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm still here. And actually, I didn't feel hungry. So maybe that shows me something.
Yeah. And I think all of my experimenting with fasting has really helped me understand my own body. It's so much more in understanding, okay, what is hunger? Like, if I've never gone without eating, have I really ever felt this? Mm-hmm. And so even just going, a lot of people, they don't even necessarily go 12 hours every day without eating. They might eat right before they go to bed, and then they get up in the morning, they're headed into work, and they think, I got to eat something or else I'm not going to eat all day. And they never even go more than 8 to 10 hours. Mm-hmm. But going 16 and 18 and 20 hours and like feeling the things that your body is doing in those time periods, you're going to learn a ton about your body. And so going for 7 days was kind of funny is I told a lot of people that if you've ever gone for 24 hours, you've felt everything your body's going to feel if you keep going. You're kind of in tune with what it feels like just to not have food, and your body's just really at rest and not bogged down by the process of digestion.
Right. So did it get gradually harder or did it get easier? Or was it like depending on the hour?
No, I would say the last couple of days were the easiest.
Really?
Yeah. The first couple days, it's like the first day I had a little bit of caffeine withdrawal, and I knew that was going to happen. So just a little bit of a headache associated with that. But then I woke up day 2 and totally gone, felt fairly good. A little bit of just lethargy days 2 and 3, but then 4, 5, 6, 7, like pretty sustainable energy the whole time. I did some physical testing, kind of tested some movements and some weightlifting stuff to see like, okay, was I experiencing any weakness? And for the most part, I was able to perform at a level that was quite surprising to me. After not eating for, at that point, it was like day 5, I think I did that.
Yeah, I love people's stories. Mm-hmm. I think it actually gives you motivation to see what's out there. Now, before I even say I'm going to try that, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to do some more research on that for myself, and then be like, Kari, when's your fast starting? What?
If you're going to go that long, you definitely would want somebody guiding you.
Absolutely. Sure. Well, I'm glad you said that out loud, so everyone can hear that. So they're not asking when my water fasting starting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he mentioned it being hard the first couple days. That the reason it gets hard is because you're not eating, so you're not refueling it. So there's that kind of transition point of your body's like, well, what's going on? I'm not getting any fuel. So before it can actually switch over to using the fuel that's already stored up on it, it becomes difficult. So the body kind of has to basically realize, okay, you're not going to give me something. I need to go find it somewhere else. But once it's switched and now it's utilizing the fuel that's already stored up, now there's no issue. So now that's why it becomes easier to go from after you've gotten past that kind of 36, 48 hour point, you can go, 7 days and be fine. What becomes difficult then is if your body's depleted of minerals. Mm-hmm. So he was doing a lot of sea salt during the fast. So it wasn't strictly water. So yeah, if your body starts getting rid of vitamins and so the micronutrients, that's where it could start to get difficult for people. But other than that, yeah, you're going to be fine because especially most people now have lots of stored nutrients on their bodies. And he didn't have much, but his body still survived.
Right.
So the longest recorded fast is 382 days of just water and a multivitamin and multimineral. The guy went from over 400 pounds down to 185 pounds. And he was MD was following him the entire time. They were checking all his vitals, checking all his everything, all his blood levels of stuff that would make sure that he wasn't going to die, and he was fine for that long.
So when my children haven't eaten in half an hour, I can tell them they will survive. Is that how?
Yeah, send them to bed.
If you're hungry, you're going to bed.
That's right.
I might not hear their hunger complaints anymore if I say you have to go to bed.
Yeah. And I mean, so we can go on rabbit trails here, but what we're trying to do for people is teach them there's a lifestyle that is what we feel like is the most in alignment with the way humans are supposed to live. And we've gotten so far away from that. And it's 100% affected not just adults, it's affected kids, to where now kids think they need to eat every half hour. And we've been trained to think I need snacks or I'm going to die. And that's because they're either in school where they get, they eat all the time and they eat terrible stuff all the time, or teachers give them, and hopefully you don't do this. Teachers reward them candy. If
I do not reward with candy.
It just gets more. So if a kid grows up like that and now he's into his teen years and he's away from mom, who's potentially having him do some healthy stuff, now he's going to go live an even worse lifestyle.
Right.
And now those are the people that get really, really sick or overweight, and then now they have to make changes and they have no idea how to make changes because this is how they've lived for 20 years.
Right.
So it just becomes more and more difficult. So
just natural.
Yeah. If we can educate people to get them saying, here's a lifestyle, and your life, you can still enjoy your life if you live this way. And now you can teach your kids to live this way. And now we can start to raise a healthier future. Because right now, I don't know if you guys know this stat, but they're saying this generation of kids is going to be the first generation of kids that do not outlive their parents. So I can't remember since when, but basically life expectancy has continued to get higher. This is the first generation of kids that are not going to live longer than their parents lived. And that's because our lifestyles continue to get so terrible. And it's not about genetics, which is what most people think it is. And if it was about genetics, then it would keep going. It's not. It's about the lifestyle, regardless of what the genetics are, if you live a terrible lifestyle. And so basically, they inherit the potentially genetics that could be a part of it from their parents, but they also inherit their lifestyle. And now they're set up. And then those kids give their kids their bad lifestyles and bad genes. And then that's why pretty much everybody's going to be sick now. And
I used to think that. Genetics. I mean, I do not anymore with what I've it's only been the past year, but what I've learned, and I'm like, we can take control. But that breaks my heart about that statistic, looking at my children, and I'm trying my best. Like, I've adopted for myself I make mistakes. I'm trying more the plant-based lifestyle for myself, and my body's really responded. And I know the inflammation's gone down a ton, but looking at my children's food, and I'm not going to go on we could go on that forever, but I'm very cognizant of that, and how can I slowly get them turning their mindset going forward, so they don't feel like they're being tortured, basically, is probably what my oldest one thinks. My youngest one, luckily my daughter will eat anything I put on because that's what she's used to seeing.
Sure.
That wasn't necessarily for the boys, but
it's crazy. So my kids, my oldest one went to, I think, 1st and 2nd grade, went to a school, but they were homeschooled most of the time, and now they go to a school, and he's been there for, I guess, the last 3 years. But my kids grew up not knowing what an Oreo was. They never had any of that type of stuff. On occasion they would, if they went to grandparents or something like that. But now, because they've been around other kids that eat a certain way, now it's like they totally have forgotten what they're supposed to eat. And I mean, it sucks. That's difficult to try to always say no to whatever they want to eat, and then obviously they go and eat stuff behind your back that they're not supposed to eat. So, but again, if all the kids in their school ate a certain way, like if all of them were like that school you guys are talking about, where everything's made from their garden, then it wouldn't be an issue. But because nobody knows about the lifestyle they're supposed to live, now we have to deal with that type of stuff. Right.
And it's the battle. It's like how to make it to the point where they're helping make that choice. So they're not feeling like, mom and dad are just being hard on them. It's getting them to see it. Like, I know we're all, battling at home, and that's, can be a whole conversation. So obviously the three of us think nutrition's, to me, it's the most important thing. I'm still working on my physical, which it's a work in progress, but I know how important it is for me to always be on track with my nutrition to the best of my ability. But also just the traceability part now comes in, and it's been something that I've been looking into. We've all heard about the recalls, and that's going to happen. It'll continue to happen. We're not going to get rid of that. Well, at least not anytime soon. We're not going to. And so you think you're eating healthy, you're buying, fruits and vegetables, anything really can be recalled even when you think you're making great choices. But when it comes to traceability in food, and I know, our podcast is presented by Biteable Foods, which they're really trying to make traceability basically a thing for the consumers, where exactly where your food comes from, and that helps out everyone. How do you see that fitting into your life? Or, do you see that being maybe something that could help our future when it comes to food?
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest way first of all, I think it's something that could be extremely valuable, because I already see myself digging in to find those things as is when it's not readily available. There are brands that I trust because I've done the research to know how they are going to treat their products, the standards that they have for their products, so that I can go into a store. I don't have to spend tons of time looking at labels, although I do for everything. But like certain names on things, I can grab it and I can know that I can trust what these guys are doing because they're holding such a high standard. If I could do that across the board, and I could do that simply and easily, that would not only save me a ton of time, but I see so much value in that.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. So when I actually teach kind of a basic nutrition course for people, I'm talking about the importance of where their food is coming from. That's especially with animal products. I talk about that. So I used to have a farmer deliver to my office for people to get animal products. Now we're going to be working with another farm to be able to do that, hopefully. But if we could have that for everything, that would be phenomenal. It would be one less thing to have to worry about, because people, we've kind of already hit on it. They get on the internet and they don't know what advice is good. They don't know how to eat. So then they just get fed up with even trying. So then they just go and start to eat whatever. So if they kind of had a plan, okay, here's how I'm supposed to live. Here's how nutritional, what I'm supposed to be doing. And then they just had something like this to be able to say, okay, yeah, this is something that is on my plan, then that's awesome for people to be able to do that. I think it'll help people be able to stick to what they should actually be sticking to. And one less thing they can get frustrated about, I think.
Well, I think it comes down to convenience for most people.
Yeah.
A lot of people, whether they have children or not, there's jobs and there's activities, and like you said, there's relationships and friendships, and you're always being pulled in every which direction. And then you throw wanting to eat healthy in there for your body. And it's like, what can you do that truly is good for your body, I guess.
Right. Yeah, so I when I'm making a recommendation for like a personal care product, people are like, what, I have to change my deodorant, or I have to change my toothpaste, or whatever it is. And so it just again, they give up because they don't know what is right, and they try something that claims to be healthy, and then they show it to me and I'm like, nah, can't do that one either. And they just get frustrated. So there's these apps that you can look and say, here's just gives a score that says this is less toxic than whatever you were using. And that's, personal care products, which is important, but it's not as important as what you're putting in your body, because we do that way more. So if we could have that with food, then that would be a game changer for sure.
Anything to help us all. Honestly. So knowing what you both know now, because clearly you've been on this track for a long time, and you both have, had huge success and have helped other people. You've even started your own podcast to help others out there to feel the way you guys are feeling. What's your biggest piece of advice? Like, if they don't know where to start, because you were talking about just, home care products, which that's a whole other conversation, because that's something I've also been looking into. It's like a spiral. You're like, well, what about this? What about this? Yeah. But, probably forget about the products right now. What would be your biggest piece of advice for those listening out there to turn around their lifestyle? So
I was actually just talking today to a good friend of ours who has kind of been on a similar journey of her own in the past 18 months. She's lost over 100 pounds. She has made dramatic change in her life. And she just kind of shared a bit of her story the other day, and I'm talking to her a little bit about it, and I'm telling her, like, she's thanking us for the ways that we've contributed. And I said, like, you're the only one that did the hard work here.
Right.
However, you set yourself up for success. You surrounded yourself with people that were essentially just giving you a layup to success. All you had to do was show up day after day and just keep stepping forward. Mm-hmm. And being surrounded by people who are supporting you, who are helping you along the way, who are hopefully steps ahead of you and can kind of show you mistakes that telling her mistakes that I've made, this type of thing. Put yourself in that environment. If you're kind of this lone ranger and doing something on your own, being just this one guy behind your keyboard, no, there's a lot working against you. But being surrounded by like-minded people, I think that sets you up for success.
Oh, I love that.
He stole mine. I guess, so for me, like the only reason I talk about nutrition, the only reason I talk about exercise, the only reason I talk about anything is because the human body was meant to function in a certain way. And if you are having some sort of a pain or you're having some sort of disease process happen in your body, it's because you've done something to it that's caused it to function in that way. Mm-hmm. So for people, I would say the number one thing they could do to improve their health is to switch their mindset from I'm sick when I have a symptom to if I'm not living a lifestyle that is in most alignment with how the human body was created, then I'm sick. Mm-hmm. Eventually you're going to have a symptom. Yep. But if you're not living the lifestyle, then that's when you're actually sick. And if you just wait until you get some sort of a symptom and then you try to treat it with some sort of medication or surgery, you're still sick because you haven't changed your lifestyle.
Yep, absolutely.
So if you change your lifestyle over time, your body's going to get healthy. You're going to get rid of that symptom or disease. But that you have to have that mindset. You have to have that understanding of what health actually is. Or you can try nutrition. You're just going to do it until you start feeling better, and then you're going to go back to eating however you want to eat.
One of the things that kind of was really tangible for me, kind of understanding that whole philosophy of health and how the human body works, is basically if anything is going on in my body, if there is any symptom that is showing up, I know that one of two things are happening. I've either have something that is toxic and working against me in my body, or I'm lacking something that my body needs. And any of these symptoms is essentially a cry for help from my body saying, hey, get rid of this, or I need some of this. And once we can have just kind of a foundational level of understanding of how the human body works, we can kind of cover a lot of ground. And then having people who, like I said, are ahead of you, who have more expertise in certain areas to kind of help with like those really, really acute, more like last 10% type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are probably going to find areas where we need that, but the vast majority of things, I completely trust that people are smart enough to figure out how to live and thrive with some very simple steps.
Yeah, a mentor of mine would say the body needs no help healing, it just needs no interference. And an interference would be not giving it what it needs or giving it too much of something that it doesn't need. So basically, if you want to be healthy, you just give the body what it needs and you stay away from what it doesn't. And that's what we're trying to teach people with Restoring Human.
I love it's a big way to just, sum it up truly. Yeah. I mean, it sounds so big and complex, but it really can just be that simple in most instances. Yeah. Well, Jarek and Alex, I want to thank you guys for coming on and taking your time. And listeners out there, if you want to hear more of them, because they have a lot of great, interesting podcasts out there, check out Restoring Humans. Mm-hmm. Anywhere else they can find you, or is that pretty much if they just check that out? Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Restoring Human, YouTube, it's all the same. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Yeah thank you.